Hello everyone, I am Brandon Ordoñez from ECE41 and today I will be performing experiment number 8 for our data communications laboratory, which is entitled Configure Network Devices with SSH. Hello everyone, so in experiment 8 we will configure network devices with SSH. So first, Part 1. Configure basic device settings. In Part 1, you will set up the network topology and configure basic settings such as the interface IP addresses, device access, and passwords on the router. So step 1, cable the network as shown in the topology. So first we will build the network as shown here. So for the router, we used a 4331, and for the switch, we used a 2960. Okay, so now cable the network as shown in the topology. So we will use a copper straight through. So after that, there. So after that, configure the router. Console into the router and enable privilege exec mode. So first we will attach a console, USB console, and RS232. So first, we will go into the router. Let's rename it to be S1, R1, and PCA. Okay, so first, configure the router. Console into the router and enable privilege exec mode. So let's go to the router. CLI no. Okay, so first enable. Next, enter configuration mode, config T. After that, disable DNS lookup to prevent the router from attempting to translate incorrectly entered commands as though they were host names. So no IP domain lookup. After that, assign class as the privilege exec encrypted password. So we will type enable secret class. After that, assign Cisco as the console password and enable login. So line console password Cisco login. Next, assign Cisco as the Vty password. So let's go to line Vty 04. Password is Cisco login. So after that, encrypt the plain text as password. So exit service password dash encryption. After that, create a banner that will warn anyone accessing the device that unauthorized access is prohibited. So we will type banner MOTD authorized access only. Authorized access only. So after that, configure and activate the G001 interface on the router using the information contained in the addressing table. Wait. Okay, so I've made a mistake where I used gigabit Ethernet 000. So we will use gigabit Ethernet 001. Okay, so open it again. Configure and activate the G001 interface on the router using the information contained in the addressing table. So we go to the addressing table and we will type interface G001. After that, we will type the IP address, and the value shown here is 192.168.1.1, 255.255.255.0. So after that, we will type no shutdown. There. So after that, just exit and we'll click exit again. No, exit again, and we will save the running configuration to the startup configuration. So copy running config startup config. There. So now that it's done, let's exit, and the next step is configure PCA. So we'll go double click PCA desktop IP configuration with subnet and mask. So for PCA, the IP address is 192.168.1.3, and this would be the subnet mask, and the default gateway would be 192.168.1.1. So now that we have configured PCA, where we've set the IP address, subnet mask, and the default gateway, let's exit. Ping R1 from PCA. Okay, so from PCA command prompt, and we will type ping and the IP address of R1, which is 192.168.1.1. So there's 0% packets lost. So we were able to correctly establish a connection between PCA and R1. Next, so now we'll go to part 2, configure the router for SSH access. Using Telnet to connect to a network device is a security risk because all the information is transmitted in a clear text format. SSH encrypts the session data and provides device authentication, which is why SSH is recommended for remote connections. In part 2, you will configure the router to accept SSH connections over the Vty lines. So for step 1, configure device authentication. The device name and domain are used as a part of the crypto key when it is generated. Therefore, these names must be entered prior to using the crypto key command. Okay? So first, configure the device name. We will go to router. And config t. And enter the host name as R1. Next, configure the domain name for the device. So the domain name will be IP domain name ccna-lab.com, as we have used from the previous activity. Okay, so next, configure the encryption key method. So for us to do that, we will type crypto key generate RSA. Modules. Crypto key generate RSA modules. Crypto key generate RSA. There. So for the modules, we will use 1024. So now that it's done, we use 1024 since generating 1024-bit RSA keys will the keys will be non-exportable. Okay, so now that it's done, let's proceed to the next step. Configure a username using admin as the username and admin right there. This one as the password. Okay, so wait. Okay, so let's proceed with step 3. So we're still at config username, admin, secret, then the password, add there. So it shows that SSH-5 is enabled, has been enabled. SSH 1.99 has been enabled. So next step is establish an SSH connection to the router. Start TeraTerm from PCA. The next step is establish SSH on the Vty line. So the first step is enable Telnet and SSH on the inbound Vty lines using the transport input command. Okay, so we would go to line Vty04 and under config line we will type transport input Telnet SSH. So if it shows an error, type transport input SSH. There. So after that, we will exit. We will type login local, and after that we'll type n. Next, save the running configuration to the startup configuration file. So here we will type copy running config startup config. So now that it is saved, we'll proceed with step 6. So start TerraTerm from PCA. Exit. So here at PCA, for the host name, we will go to the IP address of R1, which is 192.168.1.1, and the username, we used admin as the username earlier. So for the password, we used capital A, D, M, 1, and capital P at 55. Authorized access only. So this is our banner earlier that we created. So now that we are able to access that, let's exit. In part 3, it says here, in part 3, you will configure the switch to accept SSH connections. After the switch has been configured, establish an SSH session using TerraTerm. Okay, so we'll exit from here and go to switch. So under that, when you're under switch, enable and config T. So once you're in configuration mode, disable DNS lookup. So we have done that earlier. So no IP domain lookup. So next, after no IP domain lookup, assign class as the privilege exec encrypted password. So we'll type enable secret class. Next, assign Cisco as the console password and enable login. So we will type line console 0. The password is Cisco and login. After that, assign Cisco as the Vty password and enable login. So line Vty 015. Password is Cisco. Login. Then exit. Okay, so after that, encrypt the plain text password. So we've done that earlier too. Service password -encryption. And after that, we would create a banner that will warn anyone accessing the device that unauthorized access is prohibited. So banner MOTD, and it says authorized access only. There. So after that, configure and activate the VLAN 1 interface on the switch according to the addressing table. So interface VLAN 1 And when we're under that, we will type the IP address 192.168.1.11, and the subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Now, after that, we'll type no shutdown. There. So exit. So after that, save the running configuration to the startup configuration file. So it says save the running configuration. So we will type copy running config as we did earlier, and startup dash config. So now that it's done, we'll proceed to step 2. Configure the switch for SSH connectivity. Use the same commands that you used to configure SSH on router in part 2 to configure SSH for the switch. Configure the device name as listed in the addressing table. Okay, so for the switch, its name is S1. So what we'll do is config t. Config t. So we will type hostname S1. And after that, enter configuration mode. Now we are already in configuration mode. Wait. There. Step 2. Okay. So for when we're under configuration mode, configure the domain name for the device. So IP domain name ccna-lab.com as we did earlier. And after that, configure the encryption key method. So we'll type crypto key RS. So how many bits in the module is 1024 as we've used earlier. Next, after that, we'll type username admin secret admin p@55. And now that we've set the username and the password, click enter. So it shows that SSH has been enabled. And after that, enable Telnet and SSH on the Vty lines. So that line Vty 015 transport input Telnet SSH. No, we will remove SSH as we have not used that earlier. There. So after that, we'll type login local n. Okay. So now that we're done, start Terra term from PCA and then SSH to the SB1 interface on S1. So again, we'll go to PCA Telnet SSH clients. Okay, so for this time we will connect to switch 1. So we'll type the IP address 168.1.11. The password is admin. And we'll click connect. So the password is capital A D M 1 N P at Cisco. A D M 1 N P at 55. There. So the password used is capital A D M 1 and P, capital P at 55. Okay. So are you able to establish an SSH session with the switch? Yes, we are able to log in the SSH client feature for PCA. Okay. The SSH client is built into the Cisco IOS and can be run from the CLI. In part 4, you will SSH to the router from the CLI on the switch. Okay, so first, we would go to switch to CLI, and from here we will type SSH ? Okay. So we are given two choices. You must use the -1 admin option when you SSH R1. This allows you to log in as user admin when prompted and enter admin P55 for the password. So we'll try SSH-1 admin 192.168.1. Admin 192.168.1. Password capital A D M 1 and P at 55. There. So next, you can return to S1 without closing the SSH session to R1 by pressing Ctrl-Shift-6. Release the Ctrl-Shift-6 keys and press X. Okay, so let's try that. Ctrl-Shift-6. And press X. Okay, so we're able to go to privilege exec prompt display. Okay, to return to the SSH session on R1, press enter on a blank CLI line. You may need to press enter a second time to see the router CLI prompt. Okay, so let's try it again. Okay. To end session on R1, type exit at the router prompt. Type Ctrl-Shift-6. Okay, so now that we were able to exit the router prompt. Okay, so what versions of SSH are supported from the CLI? We will be able to determine that by typing this. SSH there, then typing -B and question mark there. So the protocol versions, what versions of SSH are supported from the CLI? So the answers are protocol version 1 and protocol version 2. Reflection questions. How would you provide multiple users, each with their own username, access to a network device? So I can provide multiple users, each with their own username, access to a network device by establishing usernames and passwords to the local database with the use of the username command as we have used earlier. Here. So this command, we can give different usernames and passwords for each user. Therefore, they'll be able to access the network device with their given username and password from PCA. So that is it for experiment 8 in data communications laboratory.